Here is your reminder to take your progress photos. This is my client, Jack. This check-in is 1 week apart from 2 weeks ago and then this last week. And as you guys can see, there's some pretty significant changes in just this front photo here. So I want to run you through a few things that I'm looking at to really drive home the point as to why you should continue to take your progress photos. Progress photos serve as a really good bridge between kind of subjective and objective variables we're tracking throughout the week. Someone's feeling better, we see the scale moving down, training performance staying in a good spot, and they say they feel pretty good. Well, you should hopefully see something happen in the progress photos, because at the end of the day, many people are just trying to look a little bit better in the mirror, and photos are the best way to capture that. It's a nice subjective, objective hybrid. So just so you guys can kind of see what I'm looking at, I'm going to break down Jack's photos real quick here and then show you a round of them from 6 weeks ago or so. First off, when just looking at the photo, I just like to scan the overall look and just see if there's less of the person, how they're standing, their posture. Typically, people start to lose weight, they appear a little bit happier, and that's all stuff I want you to, when you're looking at even your own progress photos, to take note of. Do you just look happier in your photos? Because that itself is also progress, and if you continue to have that low stress, you'll drive more progress. So in Jack's photo here, we see some tightening up in the midsection here, which is pretty great. I'm gonna actually circle this for you guys. So you see there and there, we see significantly more abs, especially in this upper ab region. People in general typically lose more of like this upper abs, oblique region earlier on, along with some shoulder definition here, which we can see there's a little bit more definition here on the right-hand side, which is pretty good. Then we see typically some, more arm definition coming in, some back definition, some leg definition. And the last things that typically come in are like your love handles and your glutes. Glutes are usually very, very last. So just a framework of how you might expect to see some changes, but that's exactly what we see here is those abs really tightening up. Now, if we move into a side shot here, we can see that serratus oblique area tighten up even more and some definition in the upper shoulder region, which I was just referencing a minute ago. We see this serratus oblique area really tightening up. That's just 1 week of change. This is why progress photos matter. I saw his weight come down. He says he's feeling really good. And we're at the point in the prep or the diet now where things are starting to change a little bit more visually, week to week even. So we see some shoulder definition here as well, which is great. This upper chest shoulder area, and even in this bicep shoulder tie-in, some good changes there as well. Now, if we move on to his back picture, like I was referencing, your back, depending on, there's a lot of muscles in the back. What comes in when? We see some low back changes typically a little bit earlier in a deficit as well. So, down here, I see a little bit, I'd say kind of down by this, hip tie-in down there, a little bit of more tightness and a little more tightness in this upper back trap area. This could also be a slight bit different of retraction, but I am just seeing overall just a bit general more leanness. He's not taking up quite as much space. So definitely some progress, not quite as much as the other two shots, but if you've looked at enough progress photos, you can start to notice just the vibe and the presence of the photo being a little bit different. So just to drive home the point, I want to show you guys what his photos look like from mid-March. And since then, he's lost, like I said, about 14, 15 pounds. So that's what this looks like visually here. We see significantly tighter midsection here, obliques, right? Obviously, he has ab definition. We see some definition in the shoulders and arms. His face even looks a little bit different. At some point, Jack's going to smile in a progress photo for me. But, a slightly different pose, but you guys get the point on this one here. So we'll look at a side shot here just so you can see what that looks like visually. And once again, pretty significant changes. We see obliques, serratus areas be much, much, much tighter. We have some actual chest, pec definition when he's flexing there, upper chest, shoulders, arms, everything's coming in nicely. I'll show you what the back shot looks like. And on the back shot here, Jack's always had a pretty muscular, strong back. And this is a good example of what I was talking about the low back definition. You can definitely see how he's much, much, much tighter in his low back, all the way down to his hip. We see some lat definition. We see some more mid-back definition. That upper back has definitely come in, some shoulders from the rear. So overall, you're going to lose weight at varying rates in varying places throughout a deficit, but this is what about 14 to 15 pounds will look like. Everyone's going to have a different rate based on where you started, how much muscle you have beneath, the amount of water weight, everything else. But if you have a look like Jack, or have a client that looks similar to Jack, this is what about 14 to 15 pounds could look like. He weighs right around 200 pounds, and we've been losing about 2 pounds a week for the last 7 weeks. And here's just a really cool graph to highlight and validate some of those things we were seeing in the photos. In mid-March here, he was 206.8. This last week, he hit 192. So over about 7 weeks, 14 pounds. Jack's absolutely killing it. As a coach, you need to make sure you're consistently going back and forth and looking at the interconnection between the subjective and the objective in those progress photos. And if you don't have a coach, make sure you're tracking all of these variables so you can make sure you're on the right path as well. If you guys have any questions about assessing progress photos or need a little help, please feel free to shoot me a few of my DMs. I'm happy to help.